Hello, welcome to Fiber Trek. My name is Sarah. I'm not really sure what episode this is, but I do know it's January 9th, 2017. I have finally found the perfect moment of light and quiet to film a podcast. It's been very busy this past month and a half with travel and family. And so people have gone back to work and routines have been reestablished. And so I've been able to find some time here to talk to you. I have quite a lineup on the agenda today, but before I do that, I want to welcome both new and returning viewers. So appreciate you coming and investing in the podcast and your time. I also really appreciate feedback or comments or connections that have been made. I don't always get to answer those the way I would like, but I read everything that comes my way and I enjoy it and share it with mostly my husband. And so thank you so much for reaching out, whether it's through a comment or, a like or what have you. Right, so let's get right into what's been happening. I have some finished items to share with you. I have some works in progress, acquisitions and discoveries, a couple giveaways, a little report on Shackleton, and then a fond farewell. Finished items. I'm wearing it. Yes, this is the Siri sweater by Linnea, Ohman. I knit this on a US 7 out of a Flat Island fleece that was spun at Hampton Fiber Mill. I think there were two fleeces that were combined and spun at Hampton Fiber Mill. I made no modifications to the pattern whatsoever. I think I made the medium. And I have not put the buttons on. This is a buttoned cardigan. I have buttonholes and everything. It's built into, obviously, the bands. But right now I'm wearing it with my penannular brooch, and I'm kind of digging the way this looks. And I like, when I wear cardigans, I like that fall this way. I like the lines that are created versus just wrapping around my body. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to put buttons on the sweater. I do have buttons to put on the sweater. I got these. Let's get a little bit muddled here. I got these at Mother of Pearl Yarn Shop, which is a local yarn shop in Freeport. And oddly enough, the woman who owns that, I had her daughter in my after-school farm program for girls, who I have now, since she's working, the young daughter is, well, she's not young anymore, is working there, and she's graduated and from college, and I had her like in 7th grade or something, so, but it's been so great to reconnect with that family through yarn. So I have these buttons. I have little goatees on them and a house. But I'm kind of thinking like I'm going to just keep it as is. Can see the detail. I don't know. Can you see the detail of that yoke? It's a twisted stitch lace pattern. I did block this. I soaked it, threw it in the dryer on the spin cycle, and then I did give this a bit of a stretch to kind of, I don't know, just pop some of those stitches a little bit. I also wanted it to be a little bit longer, so I helped it relax by stretching that and pushing everybody into place. But dried pretty quickly by the wood stove, and I have been loving loving it. I'm wearing this with a tank top right now, so and it's not bothering me at all. In fact, it's incredibly comfortable, and I'm not even noticing it. Right, so that's Siri by Linnea Ohman. Finished. So what could possibly be next on the needles, right? What are the works in progress? So let's talk about that. I don't think I have any other finished items. I know. We're not big on the finishing here, right, on this podcast. So I'm going to start with a special request from my nephew, because at that moment, in this request, I realized that he and I are truly blood kindred. So he asked me, I gave him his pajamas. I don't know. I guess I hadn't given him anything. All right, maybe I made him Dory pajamas. And he asked me, he's like, Auntie Sarah, I want a brown sweater. And I was like, of course you can have a brown sweater. So I went and I was like looking through my stash for brown wool. Of course, I didn't have any brown wool that would be suitable for this particular sweater I had picked out for him. And so I found some Cascade Eco from my stash from long ago. I thought, oh, that'll be perfect. I'm knitting him a sweater by Lisa Chemery. And I've knit him another one by her. This is the Storytime Scholar. And this is so my nephew. He's kind of a dapper guy. Although he loves like, getting outside and getting dirty, but he's kind of he's well put together for 3-year-old. So anyway, I sent along this Cascade Eco Plus or whatever it is. And I'm like, look at this brown yarn. Of course, everybody up to this point who I showed it to, which included my mother and my husband, they're like, that's not brown, that's gray. And I was like, well, don't tell him that. He may think it's brown. I know. I was like, mean Auntie Sarah. So Mom takes us over there and calls me on FaceTime. And I'm like, Cameron, what do you think of your yarn? He's like, I don't like it. And I was like, oh no. He's like, I want gray. I want a gray sweater, Auntie Sarah. And I was like, who can argue with that, right? Of course, this is gray, but he doesn't like it. So there was a deviant part of me that it was like, well, I think I'll just knit the sweater and he'll never know. And then I was like, well, if he's gone through the trouble of requesting a gray sweater, then the boy should have gray, right? So I decided I'm going to knit my niece an owlet by Kate Davies with this. And then I'm going to take Cameron yarn shopping, which might be a bad idea. He's very particular. He knows what he likes and what he doesn't like. So we'll see how that goes. So Auntie Sarah and Cameron are going to go yarn shopping together. So I had cast that on, and then I was like, I better check with him first. And so I'm glad I did. So that is something I've been working on, and just thought that was a real funny little story about gray sweaters. See, I can't escape it. Doesn't matter. I have been, of course, listening to Knit British, and I've really enjoyed her past 2 podcasts regarding knitworthy and the value of knitting. I don't knit for a lot of people. I knit for my niece and my nephew, and I don't need to knit for my husband anymore because he knits for himself. And so I just thought she had a lot of good food for thought on her past 2 podcasts, and it was really nice to kind of be in a reflective mode about knitting, why we knit, who we knit for, and how that's culturally viewed. So anyway, I would go take a listen to what Louise has been posting on those topics. Right, so I just knit this gray sweater, and I had aspirations of casting on another gray sweater, which I'll talk a little bit about. Instead, I thought, well, let's just cleanse the palette a little bit, the opposite of cleansing the palette, right? So I decided to cast on the biscotti sweater, and this is by Kiyomi Bergen. It's from the Winter 2016 Knit Scene, and see if I can find a good picture for you. I'm knitting mine out of a Romney Singles from Maine Yarn and Fiber Supply. I'm knitting it on a US 11, and that's 8mm. I did make some mods, so let me tell you a little bit about it. That's the collar, and I finished the body and the bottom. It's knit top down with a raglan sleeve, and this there's a vertical stripe section, and then the neckline, this is a corrugated rib section. So I knit the whole thing to the specs in the pattern, and I tried it on, and the vertical stripe section that you see here, it does have a bit of shaping because you're stranding your yarn, so it does kind of pull in, and it creates just a little bit of a puff right at that transition zone, which happened to end up, it was sitting right on my widest part, right on my hip. That's where it started. It was like this puff, and then my widest part. It ends in a one by one ribbing. And I thought, well, is it going to block out? Will that relax when when I get it wet and the fibers kind of relax and the twists, whatever. And I decided that I didn't want to risk it, so I ripped it out, and I ripped it back up to the narrowest point of my waist. So I have an hourglass shape. So I'm my shoulders, I come in and then I go out. So I rip back up to just the end of my narrowest part. And that's where I started the vertical stripe ribbing, and then ended it just at my hip. So I did shorten it just a little bit, and I moved up that vertical stripe. Other than that, the fit is wonderful. I'm knitting the second size. I actually got gauge on the needle suggested. That never happens. And I am working on the sleeve now. So I'm really enjoying working with this Romney singles. It's performing a lot like Icelandic and an Icelandic Lopi style. So yeah, so a nice bright red and white sweater. I think if I hadn't had to rip out the body, I probably would have a sleeve done and then another sleeve done. So this sweater just knit up so quickly. I think I've been working on this. I probably could have had it done in a week, but with traveling and some other pieces and ripping out, it'll probably end up taking me up to 2 weeks. But how great is that? After working on something that was a little bit more intensive on a smaller gauge, to get that kind of going and off and out of the stash. My other thought when I was looking at where I was going to go next after this sweater was to do Helen Magnusson's, is it Glamdigs? It's an Icelandic yoke, and it's a cardigan, although you can convert it to a pullover, which I probably would. Again, knit on a larger size needle. I think a 10, which I'm not sure what that is in millimeters. I'm so sorry. Maybe it's 7 millimeters. And I'm going to combine, it's my personal Icelandic Lopi that a rustic fiber mill spun for me, and I'm going to use some tidal yarns as the contrast. So I may cast that on next and get kind of those two big, nice, bulky sweaters out of the way and just in time for February. So these are in my Madderroot bags, and I love these bags. So I have her linen sheep, I have her wool sheep I got for Christmas from my mother, and I also have her linen maker's bag. So I'm continuing to work on the Ramble shawl by Andrea Mowry. I'm knitting this out of Upton Yarns 3-ply Coopworth, and I'm knitting it in Fern's Watch, named for my sweet Great Pyrenees fern and silver birch. And these are natural dyed yarns, and that Sarah Lake of Upton Yarns does. I'm knitting this on a US 7, 4.5 millimeter, and right now it's just a garter stripe, and you're kind of increasing at an asymmetrical line, and then it's going to turn into like a brioche, I think it kind of asymmetrical, and then it goes straight, almost like a stole, and that'll be done in a brioche kind of chevron pattern. Anna Green Gables, like I said before in my last podcast, kind of apropos, my little fern, my little kindred spirit. Right, so I think that's it for works in progress. Really, the main bulk of today is acquisitions and discoveries, of course. Quite a bit to talk about. I'm looking and I'm like, I don't know where to begin. So I think I'm going to just start with some of the patterns that I have acquired. I've been really excited about one in particular, and I've been looking forward to the release of this pattern. This is Seachange by Jennifer Steingass. She is a Maine designer, and her Instagram feed, I think, is Knit Love Wool. She's beautiful yoke work that she does. But this is her first pattern, and I knew I was going to knit it. I'm thinking of using my Cornish tin, the first run. I have light gray and a beautiful sea green. So I picked up that. This is a double knitting weight sweater. I also picked up the Shine mitts, and this is by Kammebornia, or Pia Kammeborn. Let me see, I think this is the best picture. I'm going to use these, I think, for the New Hampshire Knits Mitten Along, Fair Isle work. So I'm really excited. I'm going to use Cornish tin too, and I have kind of a really cool burnt pumpkin color and light gray. I don't know if you have tuned in to the Kammebornia podcast yet. They're on episode 11, and they have decided to continue into 2017. I have this, well, this is part of acquisitions. It's kind of discoveries. So I would recommend going on over and checking out if you haven't had a chance yet. It is subtitled. They do talk in Swedish. I don't get a lot of knitting done. My husband is a huge fan of this podcast, so we like to watch it together. There's knitting, and there's also lots of great topic conversation, kind of bigger topics than just knitting. And I really appreciate that opportunity to, I don't know, be contemplative or reflective. And it just elicits a lot of great conversation from my husband and I. So Kammebornia Podcast on YouTube, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. It is hosted by her, Pia, and her husband Dennis, the king of Kammebornia. And I follow both of them on Instagram, and I really enjoy their pictures. They're on Gotland in Sweden. And yeah, so if you have an Instagram account and you're looking for some great kind of Nordic inspiration, I would recommend going over to both of their accounts. So anyway, I picked up the Shine mittens. I'm excited to knit with those, or to knit those, not with them. I also picked up the Fidra hat by Gudrun Johnston, and I have some handspun that was given to me. The name is eluding me. I do know it's Shop Teasel. And she sent me some gorgeous white handspun, and I just love a white cap and pom-pom. So I'll be putting that together for myself. I also picked up, as a gift from Pomo Go Lightly, who is a dear friend, it was really weird. I was looking at this particular pattern on Saturday in the evening. I was just kind of going through some Kate Davies patterns. There's going to be a lot of Kate Davies coming up. And I have this in my favorites and in my queue, and I was like, oh, I love this particular piece. I want to knit that. What would I knit it out of? And then the next day, my friend contacted me about this particular same pattern and wanted to know if I wanted to knit it. And I was like, yes, with reckless abandon, yes. Because when you see the things that I want to knit, you're going to be like, oh my God, Sarah, it's like all Fair Isle and size 3 needles. So this is the Sixerine Cape by Kate Davies. I'm going to knit it as is. I love the colors here. They're so warm. She does great. I typically end up doing the colors that Kate does her sample in. So it's just nice to have a designer that matches so aesthetically. It makes it so easy for me. But I mean, if that picture doesn't sell you on it, then so super fun. So thank you so much, Pomo Go Lightly, for pulling me down that rabbit hole with reckless abandon. So I picked up that, and then I picked up, with Kate's Inspired by Isla Club, a number of her patterns. All of them, I want to knit all of them, of course. But I'm going to be doing, I say this. I did buy the yarn for it, and I'll tell you about that when it arrives. This is the Oa. I think that's how you say it. I could be completely messing that up, but oh well. I'm going to be knitting this. All right, I'll just talk about it because 35 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm going to be knitting this out of a 3-ply on a heavier DK weight. I'm going to use All Centrum yarns. That's a Swedish yarn I purchased from Midwinter. And I wanted to do a 3-ply because I wanted it to kind of be rugged outerwear. And I also know that my gauge, I'm a tight knitter, and this is knit with her buccal yarn, which is a sport. And I plan on knitting it probably on a US 5 with a little bit heavier yarn, because my knitting, when I knit Kate Davies patterns, it tends to be a little bit small, and I need to do quite a bit of adjustment anyway. So I knit her, goodness gracious, Cockatoo Bray, and I did some amendment work for that, and I knit, and that I did out of Tide, and then I used her yarn to knit a yoke, came out last year, Miss Rachel's yoke with the buccal kit, and it's not too small, but it's like I wear it with a skirt, like it looks really smart, and I want this piece to be a little bit more like heading out to the hills kind of thing, and just have a little bit more ability to wear. And I think that 3-ply is going to provide some of that, and also provide me with a gauge that might work a bit better for my body type. So anyway, I digress. But
how could I
where was I
not?
going? Did it cover all my patterns? I got a little bit. I'm so enamored with this particular piece. Right. Yeah. Okay. I think that's everything. Yes. Okay. So that's it for patterns. There's a lot of sweaters. I love knitting sweaters, and so I want to knit all the things right now. What else arrived? I got a great package from a dear friend, Jennifer Goyer of Wild Lily Artisan Fibers and Aniroonz. You may have heard me talk a little bit about that because I did an Instagram giveaway for a particular yarn that she has released. So before I kind of dive into that work that's happening with her, I'm going to give you a little bio on her, and I'm going to read it because I want to make sure I get everything correctly, and I couldn't remember all of this. So I think it will sound a little bit more like a formal introduction. So Jennifer is a writer, storyteller who happens to love wool and sheep and place, especially the West, and that is a place where all are found in plenty. She is a spinner, weaver, knitter who is happiest when she is elbows deep in raw fleece or kissing a lamb's nose. She works in a wonderful partnership with Aniroonz Sheep Co, a heritage breed sheep ranch in Colorado. I really want to mine for stories connected to place and wool, to bring to light both the histories and the daily lives of the people, places, and animals. In my dreams, I'd love to someday be a master spinner and really know a lot about sheep, like Deb Robeson, Maggie Casey, and Judith Mackenzie McEwen, all rolled into one. So Jennifer has the work of Wild Lily Artisan Fibers, and she has the work of Aniroonz, as she described. And so she sent me a package of some of the benefits that the sheep are providing out there, and I wanted to share that with you. So first is her release of her first story-based yarn. There's a series of blog posts at Wild Lily that talk about her personal story. This yarn is called Lean In. You can read more about that on her blog. It is a blend of BFL, Wensleydale, CVM, Romney, and mohair. And it's 200 yards. She figures it's a DK or a light worsted weight, and it comes in this oatmeal or this gray. I am going to knit a sweater out of this. I love it. I think that there's enough long wool in that to provide some nice stability and wear and drape, and then you've got the kind of the shorter stapled CVM to kind of provide a bit of bounce and memory. It's a lovely yarn. So you can find this in her shop right now. And yes, I want to enable you. I think this is really great work. I think this is a story that's worth investing in. I also think Aniroonz is another great story worth investing in. She sent me some Wensleydale fiber. So Aniroonz, as she described, is a sheep ranch that focuses on rare and heritage breeds. Here's some gorgeous colored Wensleydale. It's not going to really do it justice here on the camera. But spinning long wool, I don't have a problem doing that. She also sent me this really interesting, where is it? Lincoln. This is a Lincoln singles. I love it. I can't wait to do something with this. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but yeah, another Aniroonz product here. It has a hefty hand, but again, I'm so not a good representation of the general population because I probably would wear this around my neck. So take my opinion about wear with a grain of salt. So anyway, something gorgeous, nice, beautiful singles. I also have some some Lincoln 2-ply. 200 yards. I love this. I love the weight of it. Long wools that drape and weight and luster. Go be inspired. Go long wool it up. Lots of soulful stash here. And I got, so I just have a couple other skeins of that gorgeous lean in to play with. So Aniroonz, Wild Lily, you can't go wrong with either. Please be enabled. Lots of fun. Speaking of being enabled, this is another great place to go be enabled, which is the Woolly Thistle. I love having Claire as my international personal shopper. I knew this was coming. She had done some announcements about it, and I knew I wanted some. This is Croft 29 Hebridean wool from the Isle of Skye. Claire was able to garner, I don't remember how many skeins, but she put a limit on the number of orders. So I ordered one. I wasn't a pig. I really wanted to order the lot and do a sweater out of it. But Louise of Knit British had a nice comment or suggestion. I think there's a cowl that she had suggested I could do this in, and I probably will. Again, Hebridean, primitive breed, but I totally can wear this around my neck. Grain of salt. So I got that, Croft 29, Hebridean wool. What else? I feel like where is my other thing? So, Kate Davies. I got O. And I put it somewhere, I don't know where I put it. Right, it was next to me the whole time. So this is Shetland O. Wool, Textiles, and Work, published by Kate Davies and photography by Tom Barr. So yeah, I picked this up. Like I can't remember, I've re-recorded this, but I wanted to say, and I may have already said, typically when Kate Davies puts out content, I invest in it immediately. I know it's going to be quality. I know it's going to have a lot to offer about history and textiles, and aesthetically it'll be aligned with myself. So I went up and just decided I was going to do this great work. So she features designers. We have Hazel Tyndall, Donna Smith, Woolman Oliver Henry, Jameson and Smith Wool Brokers, the Marts, Shetland Livestock Marketing Group, Chris Dyer, archaeologist and crofter, sheep breeders, just gorgeous, gorgeous. So, Aspired by Isla, Shetland O, lots of Kate Davies coming down the pike, I think, this year. No surprise. All right, I'm just going to check my notes, make sure I got everything here. Knit British. Okay. So a couple of podcasts also that I wanted to mention. I talked about Kammebornia, but I wanted to talk about Ninja Chickens, and I wanted to talk about the Gentle Knitter. You probably already watched the Gentle Knitter, though. I've been watching Nicole since she began, and she is a podcast that really appeals to my sensibility. Gray yarn, natural worlds, lots of garment knitting. So I would encourage you to go over to Nicole. I find her podcast very relaxing. Like I said about Kammebornia, there's a lot of fodder for contemplation and reflection there. Lots of good content. So head on over to the Gentle Knitter. I know you're already watching her. The other one is new, is Ninja Chickens, and she's one half of the Fern Fiber yarn company, and they are curating fleeces, I think primarily on the East Coast in the Carolina area, and natural dyeing them. But her podcast really focuses on a number of different craft and making techniques, including eco printing, some spinning and knitting. And so head on over there. She's got some cool stuff going on, and I really enjoyed her personality and some of her endeavors for 2017. So I've covered acquisitions and discoveries. I think I got everything there that was interesting. Checking my notes. Right, on to Shackleton. So the Shackleton project is, it's an 18-month knit along. I think we're 12 months in. We have 6 more months to go. And people kind of picked their epic knitting or spinning project. I happen to be working on Kate Davies' Frost at Midnight, which is a yoke sweater from her yokes book. And it's got a beaded yoke, and it's knit on I'm knitting it on a size 3. I have about 7 inches done. It sits in my mother's car, and when we commute together, I have 45 minutes there and 45 minutes back. I know that there has been some movement on that yarn being completed for release. I designed the yarn for it with Jenny Estelle of Croft, and we are going to be releasing a limited run of the Shackleton base. And yeah, so I am knitting on it. I'm on board. I haven't checked where Shackleton is. I probably should, and maybe on the next episode we'll do a Shackleton update on his particular history. But for now, I know I had told you I would do a giveaway. I have 2 giveaways. I have the letterpress pattern by Sarah Pomegranate of Yarns at Yunhu, or Sarah Bauer by Yarns at Yunhu. And I also have a bag that was donated by a viewer and Shackleton participant, Kleinwitz. And it's, I can't remember the name of this type of bag. Like I can see it in my brain, I just can't articulate it. But it's super fun. They just tie, nice lining. So I'm going to be giving away, I had a little change in plan, but I'm going to be giving these away to people who have completed their Shackleton project. I haven't done any real celebration of that at all, and I'm feeling like at the end of the Epic Knit Along, I would like to do something really special for everybody to participate in some way. So stay tuned for more. In the meantime, I'm going to be giving these away to 2 people who have finished their projects. I drew prior to recording, and the winner of the letterpress cowl, and that look is, do I have it here? I shut my iPad off. My iPad shut off. The letterpress cowl is great for gradients. It's not a cowl, I'm sorry. The letterpress is based on a gradient kit that Sarah received, and I plan on knitting it. I think I'm going to use some of my Soulful stash, and I just need to get organized on what I'm going to use. So we'll see if I can sort that out. But the winner of that pattern is Nicole Verrett, and I was going to show you what she knit. There we go. The other winner of the bag is Band and Bee Knitter. She knit a full-on orange yoga coat. I'll take a look at that. Here's Nicole. Let's see, where are you? This is what Kleinwitz put together. Kleinwitz on Ravelry. Holy smokes. Knitted that big, like, poncho cable-y thing. Epic. And then Nicole, who was number 15. Oh, I won't show the JPEG. She had knit a kind of a really fun looking lace cowl piece. And then Band and Bee Knitter, like I said before, had put together this really fun, just orange coat. Probably not showing up as well as it could. Certainly want to see those projects or any of the other projects. You can check out the There and Back Again thread in our discussion group on Ravelry. Right, so Nicole and Band and Bee, please get in touch with me. If I don't hear from you, I will ear burn you. And hopefully we can get at least the bag in the mail, because you know how great I am at the post office. The other giveaway I wanted to do, mostly I just wanted to create conversation around this topic because I've been thinking about it. It's a little bit out in left field. It's not as knitterly as I guess it could be. But Aspen Snapdragon donated 2 copies of her Ajax mittens to the podcast, and I'd like to give them away as part of this particular conversation. All right, so let's start with nature programs. I'm not going to be doing anything else after this, so if you're like knitting, I'll bid you a fond farewell. But this particular giveaway I'm calling the Champion giveaway. I was inspired by, we've been watching a lot of nature on PBS, and I was watching some back programs, and one of them was about the black mamba. I am not a snake person. I don't. Once I know where snakes are, I'm okay usually. But I will stop and get them out of the road if I feel like I can, especially here in Maine, because we don't really have any venomous snakes here in Maine. So anyway, Rob and I are watching Black Mambas, and it's really the story of this one particular woman in Swaziland, and she starts doing a project about snakes with her son, and this turns into an interest in snakes, and then an interest in handling, and has really blossomed into a black mamba specific rescue. I can't remember what black mamba bites account for in deaths in that country, but it's high. And part of the reason it's high is because the anti-venom is so expensive and it's hard to get to the anti-venom. So her husband and herself, I think she and her husband run and manage a resort. They are a rescue service, and they get calls from all over, and they go and they remove black mambas from people's living spaces and homes. And at the end of the video, they were talking about she's received a grant from, I think, the king to set up a sanctuary and to do educational work with students and people like in the schools and in villages, and to also further the availability of anti-venom and therefore saving the species. So I was really inspired by her commitment to an animal that probably doesn't have the best rap in the natural world. And I started to think about and discuss with Rob a little bit about animals and champions, and thinking a little bit about the Herdwick and championing being a champion for particular sheep breeds that don't get a lot of press within the podcasting and knitting world because they're scratchy or they have guard hairs or kemp. And so Rob and I were talking about this and thinking about, acting, creating action around positive change. And I have a strong interest in the natural world. I have a strong interest in the natural world and place, obviously. So I thought for this particular giveaway that maybe we could rally around a particular species or a particular landscape that we would like to champion. Elephants, polar bears, humpback whales, those are real high profile species. They get a lot of press, and yes, we should champion them. So if that's your way to go. But we're also looking for the underdogs, like black mambas. And I guess, are you going to join the Society for Preservation? Are you going to donate financially, donate your time? Are you going to spread the word, write an article, tell your friends? I don't know. However you want to interpret what that means to enact positive change and champion a particular animal or landscape. And I was thinking about the avian bird haven here in Maine and all the work they do, whether it's hawks or blue jays or chickadees. So I have a number of ideas in my head on how I'd like to move forward. And it all kind of came down from this particular show and this particular commitment that this woman and her husband have made. Her husband is petrified of snakes, but he goes in and he works with her. I would highly recommend it. I can't remember. I think it's called Black Mamba. It's a nature program on PBS. So anyway, that's the champion along, or champion giveaway, I should say. Go ahead and just tell me what you're thinking about. Tell me, and I'll put mine in there too and see if we can create some conversation. So I have 2 patterns to draw for that, but I would just love to hear from you anyway. Right. Checking my notes. I gotta edit all this. Yikes, bat dogs. Great. I think that's it. Hopefully I've stayed on my 35-minute mark. I don't know if I have. So at this point in the podcast, I'm going to bid you a fond farewell. I don't know if I can do this from memory, but wherever your fiber trucks may take you, may they all include fiber. That's a lot of maize. Wherever your fiber trucks take you, may they all include fiber and have you return home safe. I'll see you next time. Bye.